What is up, you guys? Welcome back to Mobbin' with Macie. So I actually decided to film the podcast in my living room just to kind of experiment with different scenery. Like, I have flowers right here. Unfortunately, they're dead, so it's not like the best look, but at least I have some type of backdrop versus just a regular white wall. I actually have a painting above me, but I couldn't really put it in frame because then I would be too far away. But I feel like that would be a good element for the podcast. Maybe I'll try to figure it out, kind of how to keep that and myself. Before we dive into the episode, I wanted to tell you guys that I'm now going to upload every Thursday at 3 p.m. EST. I was doing every Wednesday, but I wasn't really sticking to that. I was kind of having trouble being able to get my episode done and edited in time before Wednesday would approach. My busiest days of the whole entire week are Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Sometimes it's hard to manage my clients, posting content, and a bunch of other things that I do with also filming the podcast. The whole entire process of setting up a podcast and being able to edit the episode, it actually takes longer than what you would think. So yeah, we're gonna see how Thursdays go. Thank you guys so much for your patience. I know a lot of weeks I either skipped doing the podcast or I wasn't posting on Wednesday when I actually got myself to start being consistent again. So I want to stick to Thursday. I hope that works for you guys. And let's dive into today's episode. So my whole entire fitness journey, I've always been chasing bigger legs, bigger glutes, and just being in a bulk. So I started off being very thin, and then I was always bulking. I've been lifting since I was around 14 to 15 years old, and I'm 25. So it's been a decade of 90% of the time bulking. I have had phases where I was in maintenance, and then there was times, probably 1 or 2 times, where I tried to cut, but I didn't last too long. But yeah, basically my whole fitness journey has been me trying to gain weight, and during this past summer, I kind of let myself go. I gained some unwanted fat, and I didn't really have a set plan, or I didn't really know my direction on what I wanted to do with my life when it came to my fitness goals, because throughout the 10 years that I've been lifting, I've always had goals that I was able to reach, and I've had a lot of accomplishments. So the past few months where I was kind of letting myself go, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I was actually ordering out pretty frequently. I wasn't really showing up for all of my workouts, which is not really like me. In May was around the time when I was purchasing a home for the first time. If you've ever tried to buy a home, you know how stressful the process is when you're trying to close on a home. So during that time, not only was I confused on what I wanted to do just because I have accomplished a lot of things when it comes to fitness, but the very high stress and pressure that I was going through caused me to go to food for comfort. And it was food such as Uber Eats. So it wasn't stuff that I was making at home. It was meals that were not healthy for me. And I wasn't really showing up for all of my workouts. I was just in a place where I gained some unwanted fat, and I wasn't really seeing much definition in my body. Around that time, I kind of just let fitness be on the back burner. Before I got in that phase where I was kind of off track, I was bulking. And that's when I got off track, is when the whole house process happened. I was out of shape. I was starting to get so fed up with myself and my actions and the way I looked, especially someone that needs to post online for a living. You kind of have to keep up your image a little bit, especially if you're trying to be a fitness coach. So I decided I wanted to completely do something new, and I wanted to cut and lose weight and actually have abs instead of always focusing on growing legs and growing glutes and being super thick. I love being thick and having nice glutes and legs and just being juicy overall, but everything you have to do to keep up with that is a lot. So I completely switched gears and I decided to do a whole entire different route. In today's episode, I want to talk to you about why I'm cutting instead of bulking, and I want to tell you everything I've been learning throughout the process. I'm also going to share what it really takes to be able to sustain a weight loss journey. So let's dive straight into it. First things first, as I already mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, I've always been someone that's bulking, and I never really had to cut. I've always been on the thinner side, so I never had a reason to be in a calorie deficit and do cardio and just everything that's involved with losing weight. When you're in a calorie surplus and you're trying to gain weight, you have to eat more food than you would have ever imagined, especially as you progress and you're in the bulk further and further. You have to eventually eat more and more food. It's a full-time job of eating meals all day. From the moment you wake up, you kind of have to wake up at a reasonable time so you can get all of your bulking meals in before the night ends, but you have to eat a lot of food to be able to keep up that physique. It's a lot harder than people would think, especially for people that are on the thinner side, like myself. I have to do a lot of work to be able to keep up that physique, not only with the food, but my lifting, how much I'm lifting, going heavier. The fact that I've been lifting for so long, it's kind of hard for me sometimes to see a lot of progress because I've done everything in the book. So it's kind of hard to continue to see more growth, especially if I'm not powerlifting. Because when I was powerlifting in 2021, I lifted the heaviest I ever have in my life. And that's just not something I can do nowadays. That's not something that I want to put myself through again. I had to eat even more back then than I have the past few years when I was bulking and at a higher weight than around the time of 2021. I kind of got too ahead of myself. What I wanted to first say is when I was in that point a few months ago where I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my goals and I let myself go, I was also fed up with bulking, like the thought of bulking. Like I wanted to start a journey, right? I wanted to get back in shape, but I reminded myself all the downsides of bulking since that's all I've ever really focused on and done. So I completely flipped the switch, and that's when I started to want to cut. Starting this cutting journey, in order to get a nice core and abs, I knew that I would have to sacrifice a little bit of my legs and glutes, and I was okay with that. So I wanted to try something different. There's 1 to 2 girls on social media kind of have similar physiques as I do. Back when I was on the thinner side, I actually had abs before. I was running outside every single day during the pandemic, and that's when I actually had a nice core. So I know that I have good ab genetics, and seeing all of these girls that I found with similar physiques, crazy looking cores, I know that I'm capable to do that. That's kind of what helped me flip the switch, is I wanted to feel lighter, healthier, not eat as much, and those girls inspired me. Hey, let me actually see my full potential with all the muscle that I've gained over the years and became thick, but instead shred it down and see how that looks for the first time in my life. Those are my surface level goals on why I want to cut down and have those abs. But some of the deeper reasons is when I tried to cut in the past, I did not last for a few reasons. One of them was I feared eating less food because I enjoy food and I like having balance. I like having the option to eat out if I want to. The fact that I was always on the thinner side and had a fast metabolism, I never really had to worry about how much I was eating and how many cheat meals I had, and I was able to kind of get away with more things. But now that I'm older and I've also gained that unwanted fat the past few months, like I told you, it's time to cut it down. So something that stopped me from cutting was knowing that I would have to eat less because I thought that I would starve and that I'm not strong enough with my willpower and discipline to be able to go through with it. So that's number 1. Number 2 is I didn't believe in myself that I could do cardio, let alone stick with it consistently. There was a time in the past when I tried cutting. It was in Connecticut, and it didn't last too long, by the way. I started doing cardio. I struggled my ass off going on the treadmill to do 11 incline, speed 2.5, and walking for 10 to 15 minutes. I couldn't even do that. It was a struggle, and I felt miserable. That's when I kind of stopped and gave up on that path because I didn't like how you have to work out, which takes time already. Plus you're doing cardio on top of that and then eventually training abs. Those 2 things, the cardio and eating less food, is what scared me off from thinking that I can't do that. I kept telling myself that I'm not capable to be able to do that. So that's why I've always steered away from ever trying a cut, because I always just wanted to keep up bulking. Even when I already gained enough weight, pretty solid with where I was at and how I looked. Another thing that I didn't believe in myself that I could do is fully and completely eat healthy and eat balanced meals, because I've always made food, but I never really ate vegetables. And the food that I was making, it was food that was kind of dry and it wasn't the best food in the world. It definitely got the job done, but it wasn't like a very yummy, healthy meal. The type of stuff that you see on TikTok that's very aesthetic and tastes super yummy like a restaurant, except it's the healthy version of that food. So I didn't believe in myself that I could do all of these things and actually stick with it consistently. So I wanted to prove myself wrong. So those are my deep reasons on why I wanted to start a cut. I had surface level goals of wanting to get the abs and being inspired by the girls I saw, but then I also want to prove to myself that I am capable to stay consistent with eating less food, eating clean, only having a cheat meal one time a week or every other week, and being able to not only do cardio and stay on the machine longer for 30 minutes, that's what I do now, 30-minute sessions or more, but also be able to do the cardio consistently for long durations. Now, I do 15 incline, speed 3.6, and I go for 30 minutes or more. And sometimes I'm doing intervals, so I'll jog and run for about 30 seconds, and then after that, I'll walk for a minute and 30, and then I'll repeat that over and over again. I sure have came a long way when it comes to cardio, because I went from struggling with 11 incline, 2.5 speed for 10 minutes to now doing over 30-minute sessions for the 15 incline, 3.6 speed. So I find that freaking crazy. I've been able to prove to myself that I can do that. And 2 months ago, I went from not cooking the best, yummiest meals, it was kind of like dry, to making the most healthy, amazing, beautiful meals that I'm sharing on social media now to help you guys too. And they're super clean, they're super balanced, there's always a veggie. I, for the first time in my life, have not made an excuse that I'm not a good cook, and I make good things. I'm consistently on top of my meal prep. I always know when I'm about to run out, and I plan ahead. Literally 2 months ago, when I was in that phase where I was kind of in that funk and let myself go a little bit, I was not always on top of the meal prep. I was meal prepping, but I didn't always make sure I had a meal. Like, I would sometimes run out and then let myself get Uber Eats, and I was constantly in that cycle. The process that I do now, and this is what I share with my clients, is you want to time how long it takes you to be able to meal prep. So that could be maybe an hour and 30 minutes, 2 hours. That way, you can have 4 meals for the next 4 days. So we start off the process just by time auditing and seeing how long things take. Now, I don't have my clients pick 2 set days of the week because it doesn't always land on the same 2 days. You have to be really realistic with yourself. When you're in the fridge and you notice you have 2 meals left, that's when you want to see, okay, what day is it going to be this week when I end up running out? So I'll know exactly when I need to go to the grocery store, and then I'll plan ahead, like, okay, I'm gonna run out on Thursday, so I'm gonna cook before lunchtime. That way I'll have my lunch meal made to eat that day, and then be able to meal prep the rest so I have 4 meals for the next days after that. Doing this process of time auditing first, and then planning ahead and being on top of knowing when you're gonna run out of your meal prep, and then remake your food for the next few days and so on. So that's something that I've been doing in my cutting journey. That's how I've been so consistent with my journey, is because I'm constantly in that habit of doing that process when I wasn't doing that before, which was leading me to being in that cycle of eating Uber Eats and not really seeing the results I want and staying unhappy. Doing that process is going to help you constantly stick to being able to lose weight. I'm just very proud of myself for being able to put action into every single aspect of losing weight and actually keeping it consistent for a long period of time, which is something that I was never really able to do before. So I'm very proud of myself, and I know that you guys are capable to do the same thing. You have to have a deep reason behind what you're doing, and it's also good to have some surface level goals as well, but you have to have a deep reason and take action, especially when it comes to the food, because I didn't know how to cook literally shit, but I used a mix of TikTok and ChatGPT, and I constantly try to learn new skills, and I pick up new things and learn new things every time I try a recipe. If I fail, which has happened, I go ahead and try the next week, and I try to figure out what I did wrong and continue to improve that. So now I'm in a good rhythm of making yummy things and constantly changing things up too. I have clients where they're in the zone with meal prepping, but they get to a point where they end up wanting to order something because they're not making things that taste good. So I recommend changing things once a week or every other week and just trying to make new healthy recipes. And you also want to try making the healthy version of your favorite meal that's unhealthy, because that's going to shift you easily to be able to eat healthy things. One of my favorite cheat meals is orange chicken. And literally a few days ago, I made a healthy recipe for orange chicken, and it's actually better than the restaurants, which is crazy. But yeah, guys, those are some of the deep reasons on why I wanted to cut, and also some advice for you guys and things that I help my clients with. And I also want to share with you guys how to first start this process to be able to prep yourself to have a sustainable weight loss journey. So once you get the results, you're going to be able to keep it up versus letting yourself gain all the weight back. The first thing I did when I was cutting is I put myself at my maintenance macros. I think it was for 2 weeks. I'll have to double check. But I put myself on maintenance for 1 or 2 weeks. That way I can have the habit of showing up for my workouts, doing a small amount of cardio. I started off with 2 sessions for 10 minutes. I just got myself in the groove with that, and also getting in the groove of meal prepping. I took baby steps to slowly build up good habits so that when I'm actually in the deficit macros, I'll be able to survive because I built up the right habits, such as showing up for the cardio, the workouts, and eating my meals, and making sure that I'm meal prepping my meals and eating clean and diminishing how much I'm ordering out. And once I did that and I had good habits, I then put myself in a very small deficit. So you only want to do -100 or -150. You'll start eating less food and you'll also have more cardio. So that's when I started taking small steps, but not really amping things up too much. I also want to mention, no matter what your goal is, you always want to start off your journey putting yourself at maintenance first. That way you can regulate your body before you go ahead and go into your goal macros, such as deficit calories or calorie surplus. So when you're on a cutting journey, you want to take all of these steps and take things slow because it'll help you preserve as much muscle mass as possible and also not getting to a point where you're starving during your cut. So I take things very structured, very slow to actually make these changes feel like a regular, normal part of your everyday versus starving or losing too much muscle mass. A lot of applicants that apply to my coaching, they come to me where they try to do everything at once. They were doing the most with giving themselves their full macros and doing all of these things right away. And that's gonna cause you to burn out and feel overwhelmed. So I like to have a set approach. Like for example, when my clients first start with me, I have them spend the first 7 days just tracking their current eating habits. So not worrying about any type of goal, not even your protein, carbs, or fat, strictly just bringing awareness to their habits and just getting in the groove of learning how to track. And then once we get to that 7th day, that's when I go ahead and make their custom protein goal. So we solely focus on protein intake and we don't worry about fat yet. We don't worry about carbs. So once we nail that for a few weeks, we then make their full macros. So carbs, fat, and protein, but we have them eating at maintenance. Once they nail that, we go ahead and go into either a calorie deficit or a calorie surplus, depending on their goals. So you want to take things very slow to actually make it work. Because I used to try to do the most, and that led me to not really being able to do all of this. It's not about doing it fast and getting fast results, because sure, you might get fast results, but you're not going to sustain what you did. So you want to do things right the first time around and take things a little bit slower so you actually get the progress that you want and you're able to sustain it and be able to make it feel like a part of your life. Doing this is going to help you keep as much muscle mass as possible, and it's also going to prevent you from starving during your cut. I'm in a -500 calorie deficit right now, and I'm not starving. I'm actually pretty satiated every single day because I took things very, very slow. I hope this episode helped you learn something, whether you're trying to lose weight or maybe you're trying to gain weight. I mean, this episode is low-key like not for you. This is for the people that are trying to lose weight. Let me know in the comments what you learned. And if you guys have any further questions about being able to lose weight as well, let me know if you have any topic ideas that you want me to talk about in the podcast. Make sure you guys are subscribed. There's a lot of you guys that watch the podcast and you're not subscribed. So make sure you subscribe. I'm gonna head off. I'll see you guys in next week's episode. And just to remind you, I'm going to upload on Thursdays at 3 p.m. EST and see how that works. So I will see you guys next week. Bye.